Picture this. I'm sitting on a certain fancy train from Paris to London. It's night time. I'm sitting in the dining carriage with a lot of other passengers. And then suddenly the lights start flickering. And then they go off. And then there's a thump and a muffled scream. When the lights come back on, there's a guy. He's lying on his back and he's writhing and his eyes are closed and he's shaking and people are screaming. What's happened? Who did this? And then the guy's partner calmly sits down next to him and she says to the crowd gathering, she says, he's having a seizure. He has epilepsy. And people look so frightened of this. And somebody says, does it run in the family? And she says, no, it's just him. And people look really confused and still look quite frightened. And then I'm sitting there quite confused because epilepsy is one of the most common neurological conditions in the world. It affects over 50 million people worldwide, including many historical figures. And a genetic basis of epilepsy is often not found. It only accounts for a very small proportion of people with epilepsy. So I go over to this lady and I sit next to her and I ask her quietly, did her partner take his anti-seizure medications today? And she says yes. But she says that his medications no longer really work very well. Nothing really works. And I'm sad because this means that he's part of the 30% of patients for whom no anti-seizure medications work anymore. So we lie him on his side and we wait for the 1 to 2 minutes for this event to dissipate. And while this is going on, a lot of the people in the crowd around us are talking about abnormal signaling, abnormal electricity, a chemical imbalance and all these terms. And I stand up and I decide to clarify and I say, yes, a seizure involves an excessive electrical discharge from the electrical cells in the brain called neurons, and they can happen to anyone. But epilepsy is something different. It involves multiple seizures. It involves brain tissue and brain cells, electrical and non-electrical, being changed over time so that a person is predisposed to getting seizures. There's multiple culprits. It's complex. And somebody stands up then and says, oh, but what triggered this guy to have a seizure? Was he photosensitive with all that flickering light? And his partner says, no, he has seizures at this time every day. And I think, curious, because you see, 200 years of medical literature has reported a similar finding, wherein people with epilepsy experience their symptoms at certain times of the day, and we don't understand why this happens. And exploring this in more detail may lead to the development of new treatments for people like this guy. It's just a matter of time.